Welcome to Emily Kate Made This. I am Emily Kate and I'm coming to you from Berlin in Germany. This is episode 2 of my knitting/sewing podcast. This one will be more of a knitting podcast. My last one was a knitting and sewing combined, but I think it might be easier if I split them up, at least for now anyway. So welcome back to anybody that watched my first video. You may notice that it's a slightly better quality, well, hopefully a much better quality. I watched it and realised that phone selfie cameras are not great. So I bought myself a new camera. So that actually took a week of researching because I knew nothing about cameras, and then another week trying to figure out how to actually use it. So hopefully this video will be in focus and I won't be all blurry and the sound will be, so fingers crossed, we'll see. I actually recorded this yesterday and I did it at about 6 p.m. and the light coming from the window just completely bleached one side of my face and the other was black, and I tried to understand how to edit it in the video editor, but I'm new to that too, so I'll just record again and hope this works out better. So I noticed that the last time I recorded, I never actually talked about how I got into knitting in the first place. So I think I'll do that a bit at the end, like a little knit chat along thing. Because otherwise you have no idea who I am and why I'm doing this. Okay, to begin with, I'll talk about what I'm wearing. This is the leaf top by the Knit Stitch. It was actually my very first knitted item. I saw this on my friend and absolutely loved it. And that's the reason I wanted to learn to knit in the first place. And she said, yeah, give it a go, but maybe learn to knit first before trying a full lacework, buttons and everything. So my mum came over in January 2020 and taught me how to knit, like the literal knit stitch, and I went backwards and forwards and backwards and forwards. Oh, I was so bored, but I knew I wanted to make this. So I made a dishcloth, which maybe I can insert a picture somewhere here. I made this dishcloth and I had knit and purl and yarn overs. So after I did that, I then made this. It's so cute. It's a dishcloth, but it's just too cute to use as a dishcloth, isn't it? I mean, it just sits there doing nothing, so I should probably use it, but my God, it's so cute. I think the pattern I found on Lovecrafts, I feel like it's Amanda Berry, but I'm not 100%. I'll try and find out and put it in the notes below. So that was my second knitted thing ever, and this is my third. So it's a beautiful pattern. I think I probably sewed the buttons on slightly wrong because you may notice that it's like, does this weird thing, but I forgive myself. It was my first time. So it is it's knitted in 3 pieces. So you knit the back and then you knit one side and the other side, and the button band is like knitted within the pattern. You don't add an extra. It's knitted in the We Are Knitters cotton. I think it's Pima cotton or the cotton, depending which language. In Germany, I think when I go online it says Pima, but then in English it just says the cotton. So, and the colour is natural, I believe. Again, anything that I can't quite remember, I'll just write in the comments below. Comments, show notes. And I followed the pattern exactly. Every row is written out for you. Her later designs and maybe she's updated it since, but her later ones have everything in a chart. But this one, every line was written out, and that is perfect for me. I really like being able to read exactly knit one, purl one, yarn over, because the charts just kind of, when I get into it, when it's colour work, it's fine, but when it's lace, for some reason, charts just blow my mind, and I like it written out. And I followed it as it said, so it said 5mm needles, and that's what I used. I didn't know what swatching was, so that didn't happen. I haven't ever actually checked to see if the gauge was right. It fits, that's the main thing. And I mean, it is a little big, but I'm quite small in my frame, so, and everything kind of comes out a bit too big. But I love it. I'm really proud of myself. This was what I wanted to do, and I did it, so yes. And let's have some tea. Oh yeah, and just checking my notes again. The buttons are a bit rubbish. They were just some buttons I had lying around that happened to match, which is very rare. And I think now that we're not in lockdown anymore, which is when I made this, I think I can go buy some nice buttons, like pearly style, or maybe wooden. I don't know, something prettier, and not that just these grey plastic buttons from like an oddball button box. So what else? Yeah, it took me about 9 or 10 days to make it. I think I just sat there and knitted straight just all day, every day. We couldn't go out anywhere, we couldn't do anything back then. That was March or April 2020. So that is what I did at the beginning of lockdown. And what next? I also made this skirt, but I'll talk about that in my sewing podcast. Okay, so on to finished objects. If you watched my first episode, you'll remember that I made some kind of white coloured mittens, and I also started, I think I'd finished one of them. I started these mittens, and I made them for my friend in the UK. She says she loves the colour teal, and I ordered this yarn, and it's way brighter than I thought it would be. So they're the Cloudburst mittens. I'll try and insert a picture of them because, again, the light is still not my best friend. I haven't figured out how to video properly. So again, these are the Cloudburst mittens that are by Arienne Gray. They are knitted in Finull PT2. 4186 is the colour. The pattern is free, and it recommended 3mm needles. My first one that I made for my mum, I used 3, but they came out quite large, and which is fine for my mum's hands, but my friend has quite dainty hands, so I went down a needle size. I went down to 2.5, and they came out really well, so I'm very happy with these, and hopefully she will be too. The only thing I'm nervous about is that they are a non-superwash yarn, and I don't think my friend has ever used that or knows how to wash it. I'm slightly scared she'll put them in the washing machine. But I'll write extensive care tip notes, and fingers crossed they survive. The pattern itself is knitted in the round. I started with an old Norwegian cast on, and I did a twisted rib for both, or for all 3 actually. Then it's knitted in the round, and you hold off some of the stitches, and then you do a thumb gusset. And it's a really nice pattern, so if you're looking for any Christmas presents or something for friends or yourself, I am very tempted to do them for me. But as you'll see on my next episode, the next item, I really don't need more mittens. Because again, if you watched my last episode, you will recognize these. These are what should have been my mum's birthday present, and they should have been socks. Do you see a sock? I explained in detail how it went horrendously wrong, and that basically this part did not go over the heel of my foot. So instead of ripping back, which would have destroyed my soul, I decided I would just follow the exact same knitting pattern for this section and just turn this into mittens. I mean, they're weird around the wrist, but it's fine. They'll be under a coat more likely. And sometimes you just need fingers. You need to have your phone, you need warmth, but you also need to be able to use your fingers, which is something that stresses me out because here in Germany it gets really cold in the winter, and when you want to do anything like zip up your coat, unzip your coat, everything is layered. You have hats and scarves and coats and gloves and mittens, and you can't, So hopefully these will come in handy, at least for when it's not super, super cold. And so if you want to know any more about this pattern, it's the Magic Toadstool Socks by Stoneknits. I talked more about the yarn and everything in my last episode, if you want to check that out. Okay, so another work in progress is technically a new cast on, but also technically a very old one, because I cast on this pair of socks maybe in January 2021, and for some reason I just could not understand the pattern. I just misread it entirely. I did the repeat pattern of the lace, which you're not supposed to do. It's just one small section and then the rest is all stockinette. And I got in such a mess, and then I managed to pick it up a few months later, get really into it, knit it away to my heart's content, and then realised I had somehow turned the sock inside out. So the bottom half was like a purl side and the top half was the knit side, and it was so crushing after so long trying to get back into this project, and then I did, and I did it wrong, and it got left in the naughty corner basically, and I pulled it out 2 days ago after I finished my mittens, and success, people, success. It's not inside out, it's not like repeated all over the place, so you won't really be able to see it, and I don't have any sock blockers to show better pictures, but I'll try and get a shot on my shiny new sexy camera, and hopefully you'll see it. Yeah, the light is not great. But it is the Woodland Walk Socks by Olivia Villarreal. Hopefully I didn't butcher that too much. The yarn is, it is beautiful. It's Onion Knits yarn. It's actually a really interesting combination of fibres. It is a superwash wool. Not a huge fan of superwash, but I do understand how well it works for socks, especially when you gift them, because if I said to my friends, here, I made you socks, hand wash them, they'll just laugh at me and probably never wear them. So at least for friends and family who are not going to hand wash their socks, I find superwash does have its place. Anyway, I digress. The other fibre is Nettle, and I thought that was really interesting. Instead of using nylon, it uses Nettle. So I've never seen anybody post online that their socks got massive holes in or anything, and I have heard that Nettle is very strong. So fingers crossed. I mean, after all this debacle of getting this far with the sock, if I manage to get 2 socks and they're not destroyed after one wear, that would be amazing. So fingers crossed that the yarn holds up. I've never heard a bad thing, so I hope that's the case for me. The pattern recommends that you use a 2.5mm needle, but again, I have gone down a size. I'm using 2.25. I found that when I made socks last year, they were fine, but they're really loose. You can really see through. And they have nylon, so I'm hoping that they don't get holes really quickly, but as I progress, I would like to use some more yarns, like the Mondin yarn by Retrosaria Poma. That one looks really good, but I know it's just 100% wool and it'll get holes in immediately. But if you get a tight enough gauge, it helps prevent holes, basically. That's what I've heard anyway. So we'll see. And what else? Yeah, 64 stitches around the top and a leaf pattern, obviously, and it is cuffed down, obviously. Again, I did the Norwegian cast on and the twisted rib. Twisted rib seems to be my go-to. I don't really like doing rib, like the one and then the next, and you can't get into a flow. Well, I can't get into a flow doing rib. But once that's passed, then I can get into it. I, for some reason, really enjoy lace work, but that changes basically at every stitch. But rib seems to be more frustrating for me. Totally illogical, but alas. What else? Yep, I'm still continuing on my Easter Bunny socks by Stoneknits that I showed in episode 1. And I have cast on something new. It's very seasonally off. It's actually the same woman, the same pattern designer as this one. It's a leaf shawl. I actually really wanted to make this in a beautiful yarn that I have, also actually from Rosa Pomoa, Retrosaria, blah blah blah. What is it? Rosa Pomoa, yeah. This yarn is, I need to get my head out of this picture. This yarn is so, it's so rustic and so, it's divine. I wanted to make the shawl out of this, but I have this kind of luring? Let's start that again. Some yarn that I bought basically when I first got into knitting, and I thought it was amazing and it was bulky and it'd be really fast to knit and it was fantastic, but I had no idea about superwash. I didn't really know what polyacrylic was. I didn't really pay attention at all. And now that I have experienced these lovely real woolly wools, the plasticky feeling of acrylics, they're not my jam. But I bought 6 balls of this, so I can't just let it sit there and do nothing. So I figured I would turn it into a shawl. Even if I don't use it for myself, at least I can gift it to someone. And I don't think you'll really be able to see the pattern, but maybe? I only just started, so... Basically, imagine this and this combined, and it should hopefully be pretty large. It's again the knit stitch, and it is called the Golden October Shawl. She recommends 8mm, I believe, needles, but I'm using 10mm because that's basically what the yarn ball suggests. Oh, I've got my hair completely entangled in my necklace. So I don't know how big it will come out. Hopefully it comes out decent size. I mean, I'm very small, so if it comes out too small, then it's fine. It'll be normal size for me. And if it comes out large, that's all the better. It can be a blanket for outside or somewhere nice. And what is the wool? The wool is Wolle Rödel BIG. It's 53% wool and 47% polyacrylic. I'm trying to remember here. I mean, it's fine. I'll see how it washes. Maybe it'll become softer and not so plasticky. But you gotta use what you gotta have. No, you've gotta use what you have. So that is everything that is on my needles at the moment. I have many plans, and I will show you those over the next few weeks, I'm sure. I'm thinking I'll try and put up one of these every 2-3 weeks it depends. I'm not a hugely fast knitter, so I haven't got something to show constantly, and it's actually one of the reasons that I didn't even want is a strong word. I wanted to start a YouTube so that I could connect with other knitters and crafters, because I love, when I watch them, it's like knitting with a friend, and I don't have any knitting friends. So I use the internet to have my friends, and it sounds quite sad, doesn't it? But I mean, I actually don't think it is. I love having my knitting friends that are all around the world, and I can just tune in whenever they post a video and have a knit along, listen to them chat about their life, and it's just really nice. And that's basically what I wanted to do, was join in. Instead of just hearing other people, I'd love to hear what other people's yarn recommendations are and how they find things, and like the yarns and the patterns. And I would like to have some friends, some knitting friends and some sewing friends. I have one sewing friend, and I actually met her through Instagram, and I think that maybe also spurred me on a little bit to set up this channel so that I could make some friends all over the world, and we can share our thoughts and ideas, and yeah, you know what I'm trying to say. So, and I'll be honest, after I published my first episode, I was pretty disheartened. I published it. I didn't expect like thousands of people to see this video, but I thought at least like 3, and I saw it. Me, my one view after 7 days of being online, and I thought, oh, maybe this isn't for me. But that isn't really the point of this. The point was to learn how to use my camera, how to talk to basically myself in my room, but essentially to you guys, and connect with you. I learned video editing. I'm having fun. Like when I'm making something, I think, ooh, I could put that on the podcast. And then if someone happens to stumble upon the video, then that's great. But it's not like my life goal isn't just I must have followers. So about my knitting, how I got into it, I started in January 2020 with my mum, as I mentioned at the beginning, and then after that she was supposed to come back in March and show me some more, but obviously we know what happened, and she lives in the UK and I'm here in Germany, so I use YouTube, and that's how I learned how to knit basically. And I taught myself using this pattern, and then this pattern also is in a jumper form, so I did that one too. So I learned how to knit flat at the beginning, because both the jumper and this are knitted flat. And then after that I did a few more of this same style. I think I did a scarf for my nan, and I did something else in the pattern. And then I learned how to knit in the round again using this pattern designer. She did a winter jumper, a winter leaf stitch sweater edition, which I'll show you probably in the winter when I wear it. It's very, very warm and cozy. I also really wanted to learn how to make socks. That was my main goal originally. My mum used to make socks for me and for her family and friends, and I always wanted to make socks, but they looked so intimidating and so scary. And after I learned how to make this, that was my next mission. So we used to go on to WhatsApp, and she would help me understand the pattern, because knitting patterns are like a totally new language to me, to everyone. And so she explained everything, how she did them. And then once I made my one, I used these double pointed needles, and my goodness, that was horrendous. There was just so many needles and so many things to think about that the second time I made socks, I completely gave up on double pointed. And I taught myself magic loop, which has been amazing because I use that all the time now on jumpers and socks. I then, after that, got I found, what are they called? Sock Wonder. Yeah, Sock Wonder. And I bought those, and they're basically really tiny needles. Well, basically like this. Itty bitty needles. These ones are the Chiago shorties, and I really like these ones because when I need to go up a needle size, I can just unscrew them and put the 2.5 on if it's colourwork, and then unscrew them again and put 2.25. But the original ones I bought are Addy brand, and they just a set, a standard size, and they were great. That really got me whizzing through my sock because I was getting so stressed that I kept having all these lines down the sides where you connect the sock with the double pointed needles or the magic loop. For some reason I was getting in a mess with that. But yes, they've revolutionised my sock journey. And so I got into my socks, made my husband some socks, made my mum some socks, made myself some socks. And it's funny because when I watch other people's podcasts, socks they don't really interest me. But when I'm making them myself, they're super interesting. And now I'm making a podcast and talking only about socks. I promise you, I also have jumpers and tops. There are more than just socks to my life and my knitting. But they shall come. So I think I'll wrap that up there. I have turned this camera on and off multiple times because I'm super warm and very distracted because we're going out for lunch with some friends, and I know I'm on a time limit, and I know that my husband is in the other room and can hear me, and it's stressing me. So hopefully I will learn to calm down and not panic constantly that someone can hear me, especially when I'm posting this on the internet for the world to listen to. So it's totally illogical that I would freak out that one person can hear me. Anyway, I'm rambling. So thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you again in episode 3. Thanks, bye!